Welcome, Congresswoman Williams. I am thrilled to have you here, especially following on the heels of two major things that you have done for endometriosis, which is relaunching the Endometriosis Congressional Caucus and helping to allocate funds for the NIH with a whopping total of $92 million. Thank you. Just thank you for all of that and then some. And for being
a little excited.
Yeah, I am through the moon excited over this because I feel for the 1 in 10 individual born with a uterus that is suffering from this condition, sometimes you just feel forgotten, but the pain doesn't forget you. The debilitating side effects don't forget you. And yet here we are in 2022, still feeling like we don't have a lot of answers. It's a very perplexing illness. We don't talk about it enough in the mainstream, even though there has been a lot of growth. There's still more growth to do. But you have done all of this in such a short amount of time. But why? Why for you is endometriosis such a cause that you're passionate about?
Well, first, thank you for continuing to raise awareness and have this conversation so that more people can really understand what endometriosis is and the realities that those of us who are affected by this face every day. And I'm one of those 1 in 10 people who experience the pain and the missed work and the missed social life and all of the other things that come with the diagnosis of endometriosis. And so this was critically important for me as someone who suffered from this disease since I was 14 years old. And coming into Congress, seeing that there was once the Endometriosis Caucus and it went away because the person was no longer serving in Congress. That's one of my top priorities, was to get this caucus relaunched, because I know that without federal research dollars, that we're going to continue to have people suffering in silence from this debilitating disease. And I don't want other people to have to experience what I've experienced for so long. And so it was kind of selfish for me to relaunch the Endometriosis Caucus, but I know the impact that it'll have on so many people. I don't want other young people to go to their doctor and explain the pain that they're experiencing and be told, "Are you sure you're not exaggerating the pain?" Because that's what I was told at my first doctor's appointment when I spoke with my gynecologist about the excruciating pain that I was having and how I would have to miss days of school because of the pain. And then the other thing is looking long term. I'm now the mom of a very vivacious 6-year-old boy, my Carter cakes. But when I also went to the doctor after I found someone who was even willing to acknowledge the pain was real, I was told the only way to treat endometriosis or to cure it was to have a hysterectomy. Imagine a teenager being told that, well, you can get rid of this pain if you just have a hysterectomy. I mean, very matter of factly, like it was just choosing what I was going to put on to wear to school the next day. And I am happy that I had a mom who did not take that as one of the options on the table for me, so that I could preserve my fertility, so that I could be the mom that I am to Carter, and that I could continue to make sure that other people understand that that's not their only option as well. But these research dollars go a long way in making that a reality.
Oh, absolutely. And for those people out there, myself included, when I heard about the funding, of course, very excited, but then you say, okay, 92 million, but a portion of that is going to be given for endometriosis research. How is that allocated? How does that work?
So it's a little tricky, but I'm happy to have this conversation because one of my goals as a member of Congress is to demystify Congress. We got to make sure that we work for you. We work for the people. So you deserve to know how this all works. So as part of the spending bill, you might have heard the conversations in the news about we're doing a temporary budget so that the government won't shut down. Everybody's familiar with the government shutdown. Well, what prevents the government shutdown is an omnibus spending bill that funds our government for a full year. So as part of the spending bill that was just signed into law, I secured the funding for agencies that conduct medical research into endometriosis. So we increased the overall budget for the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development by $92 million. So this means that more funds can be made available for research into endometriosis. That increase is spread across the agency, and the exact amount of funding for endometriosis will specifically be determined over the course of the year by how research projects get funded through the NIH process. So if there are people who are currently doing this research, then they can request that their budgets are increased, but it puts the money there so that it's available for these requests, because before the funds weren't available. So there was no opportunity for an increase in research funding.
Okay, and I heard the CDC also gave money as well for endometriosis.
So I am fortunate to have the CDC right in my backyard. I represent the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention right here in Atlanta in Georgia's 5th Congressional District. And the CDC has been a huge player in endometriosis as a public health effort, and it's part of their funding bill as well. So I secured an additional $582 million for the CDC, bringing its total budget to $8.5 billion for this fiscal year. And so that gives them additional opportunities to have funds available for endometriosis research.
That's incredible. Incredible. I'm excited to see how this money is going to impact the one in 10, and how this is going to make significant changes in the years to come, because it will. It will. That's exactly what the community needs. Yes. And for someone who has the disease, what advice would you give the person who's watching this and who feels lost and isn't sure what signs or symptoms to look out for, doesn't know how to advocate for themselves?
Number one, don't suffer in silence. You're not suffering alone. 1 in 2 people in this country born with a uterus suffers from endometriosis, whether they even know it or not. And so that's the thing. You have to make sure that you are having conversations with your healthcare providers and talking to friends or relatives that might have experienced this, because you don't have to have the pain that you experience every month with your cycle. And I know oftentimes we're told that there are certain things that are taboo and we shouldn't talk about. Well, y'all, I'm here to tell you, let's talk about them. And one of the things that we're supposed to have this conversation earlier, and I will be very transparent and say, I was in pain that day. And I took pain medicine and I was out for the rest of the day. And so I had to even reschedule our conversation. So even as a member of Congress, I'm still impacted by this disease, and I don't want anyone to suffer in silence. Speak up and speak out, and you're not alone. I am here with you as a member of Congress, using my voice to be your voice and being very transparent about what I experience on a monthly basis suffering from this disease. And so I hope that you can go to your doctor with confidence and ask them, if I am suffering pain where it's interrupting my normal activities, then there is something wrong. That's not normal, and you can get help.
Absolutely. And for those that are sitting there too and saying, well, she's a congresswoman and she's got a platform and I want to do something to help the endo community too, but I don't know how to. What impact can I make? What positive change can I help contribute to? How might they do that?
So you're in luck, because everybody can make a difference and everybody has a voice and a say in this process. One of the things that we can do, because we know that we got this increased funding in this year's fiscal budget, but we're going to need that funding for many years to come. Research doesn't happen in a 1-year time frame. So we need to make sure that these funds are there on a continuous basis, year after year. And so that was one of the reasons that I relaunched the Endo Caucus. But we want to grow our numbers. We want your member of Congress to be a part of the Endo Caucus. So that means calling the House of Representatives and asking your member, are they a part of the Endometriosis Caucus? And if they aren't, why not? They need to join, and they need to help us advocate for increased funding so that we can make sure that we find a cure for this disease once and for all.
Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your transparency and your candor and continuing to fight for this issue that needs fighters like you.
Thank you so much.